Welcome to Mudit Verma's Furthermore podcast. You do not want to miss this. I am so excited to be with fellow comedian colleague and professional fighter Latif Idris. Latif, how are you doing?
I'm good, my man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. I wish the weather was warmer, but that is okay. This makes me want to move. I like the summer and spring, but the other half, I don't know. Maybe I need to move to the West Coast or somewhere where it's just summer and spring.
We're gonna have a long conversation about that. You know, I moved out to the West Coast. I lived on the West Coast for a really long time, right?
I didn't know that. Well, tell me about that.
From 2007 to end of 2018, so 12 years. That's a long time, bro. Especially I ain't that old. I moved out right after graduating high school. Moved out there.
Whoa.
And was there, and my brother. Yeah, no, my brother is still out there. I got one cousin still out there. So I still got family out there, but I moved back. A couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Is this California or?
Yeah, Los Angeles.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I started martial arts training and everything like that here, and then I fought a couple of times amateur here in the DC because I moved to DC when I was a little kid and grew up here, and then started training and stuff like that. Fought a few times, and the scene wasn't really that big out here during the time. And then my brother moved out to LA about 6 months before I decided to. So I was like, I bet the West Coast got popping with fights and stuff like that. So I moved out there, and 12 years I was there for a while, man.
Wow. That is so cool.
It's weird out because the area, because I got a West Coast area code. So they're like, aren't you a DC kid? I'm like, yeah, but I lived out there for a little while. Yeah. Got you.
So it sounds like you started fighting before you started comedy. Is that accurate or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nah, I did comedy for a little bit, towards the last, give or take a year in LA, and then we came back here and then cut it out and then picked it up a year ago today. So, yeah.
Very cool. And what prompted you to move back to DMV?
Oh, well, my pops is out here and he got sick, so I came out to take care of him and everything. I mean, he made a full recovery and everything, so that's always good. And then by that time, I was out here, and then plus LA a whole different. I realized I'm way too much of an East Coast kid. I moved out there and everything, and it's cool. We ended up starting up a few businesses and stuff. So it was cool being out there and everything. So I got to go out there every once in a while throughout the year and check up on stuff. So I still got love for the West Coast, but
nice.
It's a little much.
Well, take me with you. I'll help you check up on everything. I've actually never been to LA. I've never been to Southern
California. For real,
yeah.
Bro? Oh my God, I'm about to check you out. You got to LA, that'll be funny. Yeah, no, I was out there for a while. I mean, it's always funny because I was there. I wasn't there for comedy, to be honest with you, just for that last year. And that was all just, how it is. Go see how you do. Funny. I wasn't really taking it seriously. Right. An overwhelming majority of the time I was there the whole time I was there was just for fighting. So gotcha. It's funny. I've never actually gone back there in the realm of being a stand-up. So it would be kind of funny to go back there in that realm as opposed to getting punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be funny.
I try to keep up with the Facebook groups. It sounds like comedy has not yet returned.
I know Flappers and such has their Zoom shows and such, but
word, yeah.
Zoom shows, man, they're funny. They're a good time. I've done 3 of them or so, give or take. I did one for Flappers and a few others, and it's funny. Gotcha. Funny time doing them, man. Do you like them? You like doing them?
I like. I'm definitely able to appreciate them, and I think that, for example, I use my phone instead of my computer with Zoom. Somehow, I think my phone is probably slightly more high tech, and handles the bandwidth better. It's nice to have in between reps, in between actual open mics, live in person, and actual shows. It's another gradation or gradient in between practicing in front of nobody, like maybe rehearsing in front of a mirror or just to myself. And then the next step would be like a Zoom mic, and then that would be like the the level before an open mic. So it's nice to have that like in between option, and the networking. I mean, you can reach different time zones, but as we all know, it is not synonymous. It's not quite the same as a live show. So
I see what you're saying, though. It's kind of like, what is the name of that thing that they give? Like, that was gonna be funny. Like, they give like heroin addicts when they go. What is it called?
Right. Methadone.
What is it? Methadone. Yeah. So they give them to like wean them off. I guess that's what a Zoom show is.
Yeah, I think there's a. I think there's a metaphor there. Like it's it's like a
some kind of weird stoner analogy. Like maybe.
No, I feel you. It's not as potent. It's not as real, but it certainly is something more than practicing in front of a wall. Like I talk to my wall all the time, and we have great conversations. But it's just better. It's just better.
I mean, as long as the wall doesn't talk to you back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's always true, because I was like even talking about that with like my ex like a few months ago, and she was talking about how she's not really big on like talking to herself, and I was like, come on, homegirl, everybody talks to themselves at some certain point in time. You do it like for like sense of motivation and stuff. I do it all the time. Like, you got this, you can do this. But as long as you're not having like fluid conversations with yourself back and you know what I mean? Just like, how's it going? What's going on? Oh, your day. Like, as long as it's just not having like a conversation with you and yourself within your head, I think you're okay.
Well, yeah, and especially for us as comics and dealing with things like writer's block. Also, I stumbled upon like a few months ago Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, where he just monologues it for like an hour. He just rants. I found that very like encouraging to kind of keep some kind of a dialogue going.
How good are you at like riffing and stuff? Do you essentially like have, a whole script kind of thing going on when you go on stage, or you just, winging it kind of deal?
I'm average, or maybe just a pinch below average with riffing. I don't often ride the riff out more than maybe like one or two tags or sentences. I think you're amazing at riffing. Like you really keep this fast-paced rhythm of like thoughts and consciousness just going,
man, I don't know about that, bro. Like to be honest with you, I most of the stuff I ever end up, it's so scripted. Like if overwhelming stuff, like I don't know how many times you see me like do sets, but all this stuff, it's all like written down, and obviously like you go, you do it enough times and you take out here and you add there and stuff like that. But just if someone was just like, hey, Teeth, just going like on stage and just off the top of the dome, like, I don't know.
Gotcha.
It'd be tough. Like, at least for me, it'd be a little bit hard.
I notice you keep it current, though. You keep, I feel like your content is very current, especially with politics. Like, you keep it with the like breaking news. I'll probably hear it from you before I hear it from the actual news. Like.
Well, you got to, because like a lot, like an overwhelming majority of my stand-up comedy is, social satire, political satire. So a lot of stuff that I do ends up being not, timely in a while. Like I had a whole bit about like The Last Dance, or like Jordan and everything like that, and I can't say it now anymore. It's gone. Like I had a solid like 5 minutes about The Last Dance, and it's completely gone. And there was, and especially with like politics too, because a lot of the bits and stuff they do before are all gone. I had like a whole thing about the debates with like Pete Buttigieg and everything. I can't do it anymore. It's people just look at me weird, so I guess that's always the one, caveat of going like social and political satire and stuff. It loses appeal mad quick,
that makes sense. I feel you on that. And I think with riffing, so I've been going through this phase where I'm really emphasizing the structure of my stand-up, like where my setup is very well defined and the punch and like the pauses. So it's kind of hard to, like, if I have a thought that I would like to riff off of, like, I feel compelled to have that riff be structured the same way. But then again, I don't know, maybe I can lean into the more creative and get more loose. People have told me that I could get more comfortable on stage, that might be an area that I could work on. Been advised also to maybe lean into more like conversational type of presence on stage. So yeah, it's something I can work on. The riffing and leaning into the natural aspect of riffing and being more comfortable.
Yeah, no, you're right about it. Well, no, it's true. I guess like because I always used to always have a problem with that at all, and I guess because I write a lot, like a lot. So a lot of times what ends up happening, at least at first, is when I would do stand up, I would just vision what I wrote on that piece of paper, just like word for word, verbatim. And then what would happen is if anything happened, a loud noise, like a server yell, anything, just like would completely throw me off track. And I would just like, and then I would have to move on to whatever I can think of in my mind to like the next paragraph or whatever next setup. So I would completely just bail on that joke and then move on to the next one because I had it so much in my mind. And then someone gave me like the greatest advice ever was instead of thinking it in my mind as words, to think of it more as in like pictures and such, and as emotions as opposed to like the words I read on paper. And it helps out a lot, at least in like remembering stuff. Because, instead of thinking of, some weird like Donald Trump joke, I'll just think of, like that Donald Trump's, what is it? I always say it. He's like a love child between like Jabba the Hutt and a deflated basketball. So like before I would just remember what it's written, and now I just think of Jabba the Hutt and a deflated basketball. And there you go, So it helped out a lot, really.
Right, because those cues are all you need, and once you articulate those cues and communicate that, it comes off more natural rather than like scripted word for word, I think.
True, and then in case something does happen, then it's easier to riff because I can always just, someone, because that's what ends up happening a lot of times, like especially at first, someone from the crowd will say something, and then I'll just be like, I'm gonna go back to my joke, like instead of just going back and forth with them and then going back there, because what would happen is I'd go back and forth with them, forget what I was talking about, then move along,
Got you. So what got you into comedy? Like what was that first mic like?
It was one of those things where like I had like a serious conversation with my older brother, who was funny. He's like a joking kind of guy too. And it was like all of us hanging out, like, the hood rich stuff, like in the corner and stuff. And it was like all our cousins and everything. And then all of a sudden he comes up and he was like, hey, bro, I think you should try stand-up comedy. And I started laughing, the whole like, whatever, like I'm trying to punch people, like, go stand-up comedy. And he was like, no, for real. He's like, you're not just funny, like, stupid inside jokes you just say with your family or your close friends that only they know, but you think, hey, you should try stand-up, and then you go and you do it. And yeah, it's only funny to those people because they know what you're talking about. He's like, no, bro. He's like, you funny just generally. And then, I started laughing again, and he gave me like that serious, like, I guess African guy look, just like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, Christ. So then I went, like, took my other brother. He went, he recorded it. I got some laughs out of it, and man, funny. So I just kept doing it, and it was pretty cool. It's definitely a different kind of creative outlet. Very, very different.
Right. I mean, did your older brother have experience with stand up, or where did he get the idea to?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. He's just from just hanging around with me, I guess, all these years. He's just like, bro, you should try stand up. I was like, all right, yeah. So I credit him with me starting it because I probably wouldn't have started it, to be real with you, if he didn't like give me that like serious like, dude, you should really try this out. So.
Right. Something prompt you to get into fighting.
We coming from Eritrea to like DC and stuff. I go there, don't know any English. And like. I'm not really the biggest guy in the world, like everybody else in my family, except for my dad. But like all my brothers are like big dudes, and I'm, I fight at flyweight. I always say it, like I'm like 5'7", a buck. If I'm like 150 pounds, like something's going on in my life, Right. So I'm not the biggest guy in the world. And then you move out there, and it was like Southwest, and wasn't really the like safest of areas, so used to get punked a lot, and it was one of those things where I didn't really take a lot of like, flack from other people. So I would consistently get in fights a lot when I was a little kid, and I consistently get beat up because I wasn't big, So after like a certain amount of time I would get beat up, I'm like, all right, bro, like you're not going to back down. If you're just going to keep getting beat up, you might as well try it out. And we was all like big fans of boxing. We was little kids and stuff. I was just, I guess, the only one stupid enough for my family to actually like pursue it and everything.
It makes sense, just taking it seriously and then actually learning the different art forms and competing. Does that same memory keep you going to this day? Has the reasons changed? Has the motivations changed in any way over time?
Absolutely. It would be kind of weird if I'm like at this stage of my life being like, oh, like I remember childhood, like getting bullied. Like, it
Right.
actually evolved. And maybe, you never know. Go talk to like Tyson for a little bit. It's probably the same exact thing. But no. I mean, it evolves after a little while because, it becomes one of those things where it becomes like your profession and your livelihood. And, it evolves into just a whole entire thing where just, it becomes an everyday routine thing. So, instead of it becoming like you like developing self confidence or just having the basic skills to defend yourself, it's such a long process. You know what I mean? You start off as a kid doing that, and the process to go. That's why you always gotta give props to pro fighters because to go from the gym and I want to take some boxing classes to hey he's kind of good, let him go like spar a little bit. Okay, hey he's pretty good sparring, let him go spar the fight team, and then you go spar the fight team, and then you do smokers against other local gyms, and you do that, then you
Right.
do amateurs, then you do for real amateurs, then you do perfect. It's a it's like so many years of investing into it and stuff. So you know what I mean? It just at some certain point in time it stops being just stop getting bullied to I'm getting paid to do this.
I went to Maryland College Park for college, and they had a boxing club. I joined it, and like the bulk of that organization was just kind of learning the skills of boxing. That comprised the bulk of the organization, and then there was the competitive part that if you wanted to compete, well, first you got to spar, and I think that for this very brief period, for about a year, my motivation was very like superficial. My motivation to compete specifically was kind of superficial. It was just to kind of like maybe show off. And I think the one thing I could never get past was uh, like there's a metaphor of like if you're going to become a swimmer, you're bound to get wet. Like it's a part of the game. It's a part of the process. You will get wet. And with fighting,
Yeah.
you're going to get hit. Like there's no real feasible way
Yeah.
to go through a sparring match or an actual bout without getting hit. And getting hit really, as you know, really sucks. And like that's just, I had 4 bouts and I lost all 4 of them. And I think that was the thing I couldn't get past. Like I like the exercise, I like the fitness, I like the discipline, I like the character building. But I think sparring was, just taking it past that into sparring and then beyond. Like it just wasn't for me, just not in my personality.
Well, I mean, I think always people always forget like the factor that you get super tired getting hit. People never like put that into consideration. Getting hit gets you like really tired. You know how it is. You took 4 bouts. Get punched in the face a couple of times. Suddenly you're not as energetic as you was like a couple of seconds ago.
Right.
So it's just, but the fact that you even like competed in any capacity puts you in like the 90th percentile over like a million other people. You know what I mean? And plus, it kind of just forms into stuff that you just like to do. You know what I mean? It would just kind of be stupid to be doing it right now specifically for a payday. I do it because I love to do it. Plus, you don't really get paid that much, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
Most of us aren't Conor McGregor.
At the time, it was mostly for like, I don't know, some level of clout, some level of disproving people that like Indians can be athletic too, and not just athletic, but like in like a very aggressive, challenging sport. But I think ultimately like words like comedy and writing like that I think I feel much more compatible with that space. So yeah.
Yeah. No, you went off on the whole Indian tangent for a second there, bro. I was about to like get on that whole thing too, because like okay, this is gonna be a whole interesting conversation. Because like I'm Eritrean, right? And then like everybody in my family, like my dad, all my brothers and stuff, look like stereotypical black dudes, So like some of them got braids, some got afros. Like my dad had an afro for mad years and stuff like that. And then I come out and like I get like confused for being Indian all the time, right? Because no one like only people that think that I'm Eritrean are other Eritreans. That's the only like if I see another Eritrean or Ethiopia or something like that, then they'll be like, I know where you're from.
Gotcha.
But everybody else always confused me for an Indian dude, and I remember that because I remember when I first came to like America, it used to piss me off because I'd be like, bro, like why y'all confuse me for like a country I have like no affiliate, like I don't know anybody from there, anything like that. So I remember in the beginning when I first came to America, I didn't like Indians just for that like thing. I was like, yo, they keep confusing me for these like race of people, and I don't know them and anything like that. And then like you know how it is, like time goes on, you meet like Indian people, like oh okay they're cool, you know, so, like it was like that. But when I first came to America, I was like, bro, people keep saying I'm Indian. Why I'm not Indian? Like I was like I don't speak it nothing, and it was funny too, man. It happened, used to happen like it still happens to be real with you.
Experience. Wow. Actually, and that's really interesting. So did this ever come up in like fighting? Like, did someone carry the assumption so far that, you know, apparently you're Indian? Did it ever go so far as to like, you know, therefore you're not tough, you know, therefore you can't fight? Like, did that, you know, false stereotype carry?
That's interesting. No, it was a much bigger stereotype of not being big. That was a much bigger bigger stereotype of, because that's just, you know, a physical thing. Like, you know, you can see like a big dude and be like, I don't care if he ever threw a punch in his life. You know, he's a giant. He's gonna be a problem. So there was always that like bias for just, you know, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. So that's always the main thing like that. But for like, I guess to a certain degree, yeah, because I would, okay, how would I put this? Because I was thinking about my own, like, you know, whole thing about the first few years I was here, about like why I keep getting he's an Indian dude and being mad at it. Because you're saying that, and then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, because you know I get confused for other races and stuff too, like Arab every once in a while, or like because I speak a little Spanish, like from like Central America or something like that, and I wouldn't be too upset with that. But for some reason, or even like Arab, I get that a lot for being Muslim, and you know I get that all. That's probably, other than Indian, the other thing I get the most of. But that one didn't upset me so much either, because I had like the whole Islamic connection. But like, I wonder, is it like, because I used to always saying when I was a little kid, because I'm thinking of like every like demographic had like that one like cool like character kind of thing, and I always thought when I was a little kid, I was like, do Indian people have like, do Indian people actually have that? If you really think about it, I was like, nah, I guess not, because I used to always think about it as a little kid, because I used to have like a Jamaican friend, and he'd be like, "Oh, cool runnings," you know, like everybody always had like that one thing that they always point to. And I was thinking about like Indian people, I could never really even like think about it so much. Like even Arabs had Aladdin, like everybody had something like a little, but I can't really think of the only. I mean, yeah, really, I can't think of any. I mean, no.
No, and that's totally fine, and it's actually like I agree in the sense that growing up, there was never a crossover of like influential Indian figures, maybe in like Bollywood, and then like the non-Indian Western world. Like there was very little crossover. The only pseudo crossover was like meeting other like Indian kids, like classmates in grade school, and then honestly, as far as I can remember, the first cultural crossover was Russell Peters, you know, being a Canadian Indian, and it just so happens like he was a comedian. Like I would binge watch his comedy. Like apparently his viral onset was like intertwined with like YouTube coming to life as a website and as a video platform. Talking about that, I think, on a number of interviews, and it wasn't even about the fact that he was a comedian. It was just like, finally, like some kind of artist, some kind of somebody is Indian and is hip. Like his jokes are landing. People are talking about it. The same way, you know, someone might reference, did you watch like South Park last night, or did you watch the Chappelle Show the other day, like, or the other night? Like now I have something to reference that I can like very much relate to, you know.
No, it's true. But you talking about it made me realize there was that one time where someone called me Kumar, and then I was like, oh, you know, that's actually a pretty cool person to be like, to be, what, I forget the name of the dude that's like the guy who plays the guy.
Cal Penn.
I remember the guy being like, there you go. Yeah, like, because I've seen him in other stuff too. I'm like, it's cool. I'll take him. Yeah, I'll take Kumar.
Yeah.
It's stoner genius who goes to loves burgers. Like I'm pretty close to it.
Yeah, I think I personally wasn't able to like hack into my parental controls and, you know, and break through like the Comcast, Verizon, whatever it was, firewall to watch that movie at that age.
we had no parental guidance.
Yeah,
it's so true. So I didn't know you were an only child, man.
Yeah. You
ever think that like kind of directed you towards being a stand-up? I have no idea if there's any like connection to one or the other, but you ever think it is?
I think so. It's definitely a big factor. I think it informs my comedy just from like maybe feeling like an outcast all the time. But in terms of prompting me to get into comedy, I don't know if you met this guy. He's been to your mics, Camilo Diaz. He's been to your mics once. It is like literally one time. He's a bigger dude, bigger Colombian dude, short hair. Um,
Yes, you got me with the bigger and the short hair.
yeah, or if not no hair, I think
No, I know what you're talking about.
he shaves his head and
No, he had like a buzz cut kind of thing going
yeah,
on. Yeah.
and he has like a very like expressionless face and like short one liners, type deal.
Yeah.
One or two liners. I bring him up because he's a really good example of my like only child kind of life circumstance because so Camilo, he's the way I know him is that he's really good friends with my college roommate's older brother. And my college roommate was an Indian dude like myself, and so was his older brother, which hopefully makes sense. And
adopted maybe like you never
yeah,
know.
no, yeah, yeah. And Camilo, in this particular friend circle, like it's mostly Indian, but there are a few exceptions, and Camilo was one of those exceptions. And the point is, like, me and Camilo, we would run into each other once every few months, maybe in terms of like certain social gatherings and social events that were kind of loosely put together, and we were never like close friends, but we just kind of stumbled upon one another in just various social events. And when he started comedy, like it surprised that friend circle. It surprised me. I think as we came to his shows to watch his mics and shows, like I think one of his motivations for doing comedy was like, he's never actually said this, but like I think like when we went to college, the fun thing to do was just to like go out, drink, and like party nonstop, and that wasn't fulfilling for me. I have a feeling it wasn't all that fulfilling for him, but he's never said it. And I wonder if that brought him to comedy. And I think that brought me to comedy as well. And I think for me, like the reason I don't quite mesh well at social events is because I'm an only child. So I think it's this like factor that brought me to the comedy scene, to find connection. And
Interesting. Well, because I mean, you always hear that quite a few comics that are only children, like are only children, or what is it, only child, I guess.
yeah,
So I guess there's like a connection to it, which I always thought was kind of weird because I've got two brothers and a sister, and it's always one of those things where like I always feel like it's always pretty good to like bounce jokes off them and see if it's funny or not. But
right.
I don't know. I guess maybe like being an only child probably would give you more of a motivation to get up there on stage.
Yeah, I think I guess I'm still. It's a really interesting question in terms of does being an only child, did that have a like to what extent did that bring me to comedy? And that's something I can think about. I will say that it has implications on my like comedy presence and stage presence. Like a lot of my stuff is in the frame of mind, I think, as an outcast, as someone that's still trying to figure out the world while the rest of the world has it slightly more figured out. And I think that's been tough. Like a lot of my comedy, like a lot of my open mic kind of like trial and error and bombing, it's kind of like deductive reasoning, like run through like I mean we all do it. Like we run through 100 bits and only like 10 of them work in some given time period. I think that I don't know. It's tricky trying to be both likable but also like cool or hip. And I think, but I think that being an only child has really kind of set me back. I'm a bit of a late bloomer, like achieving these cool and hip milestones of like, being a cool cat. Like I'm still working my way there.
Maybe. Well, no, you did say something that like resonated pretty well earlier about, and I think a lot of comics have this in them have that whole being the outsider looking in kind of aspect into it. I think that's like a huge quality or a characteristic or a trait, whatever you want to say, that a lot of comedians have, is that outside looking in kind of thing. Because I don't think it's an art where the star quarterback will get it. It just doesn't seem like it is.
Right.
It seems like one of those things where sarcasm or cynicism comes. It's hard to generate that being one of the cool kids. It just seems like it's so much easier to kind of look at the world in that odd, cynical, comedic way from the outside. It's really hard to, they kind of do it from within. And anybody that can, I mean, I can't really think of any on top of my head that do, but if anybody can, that's a gift. It's hard to do that, you know?
Right.
I think we were talking about it earlier, but it's really hard, me personally, to talk about being a pro fighter on stage. Not some kind of emotional, no, not for that. It's hard to make it funny. Because there's not really that many like link things that now I can talk about being a flyweight, being a little person, because that's self-deprecating. Hey, you know, I'm in this profession, but I'm little, you know, ha ha. Or I can always link it with always getting knocked out, because, you know, most of us in our lives have been in fights and, you know how it feels to get beat, to get, you know, punched in the face. So those are the only like kind of, you know, links I can do with like the general public about it, but it's hard to do it because it's, you know, it's a very like confident profession, and it's kind of hard to just be like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you ever had that one time where you tried to M&R roll and it didn't work and you went for a knee bar? Like, people gonna be like, shut up, idiot, you know? But
the technical
if I start talking about, hey, if I start getting like, hey, I got punched in the face and like on TV, and the next day my mom's friends like showed it to me on their phone, you know, like that stuff is relatable to people, you know. I guess being self-deprecating in some kind of sense, you know.
Yeah, and actually, definitely, and I think that's a struggle for me in like pharmacy, like the and chemistry, and like you kind of have to dumb the stuff down before making it relatable, because there's so many technical details that just that don't carry inherent humor.
Thinking like all your pharmacy stuff. I mean, like it's relatable. I get what you're saying though, because like all your bits and stuff are all like stuff that's like consumable to the general public. Yeah. But if you start getting to like the nitty gritty of that whole, you know what I mean?
Molecules.
Then people would just, people would just look at you with, that'd be kind of hard to do too. Kind of off the top of my head, think of like what would be a funny profession. Oh, we got that one comic that comes to the open mic, Owen, C.O. Owens. He's a bus driver. That's a pretty interesting job for a comedian.
Awesome. Well, good stuff, Latif. I am very happy that you came on.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.